All right, folks, here I got an interview with Theodore Roosevelt.
Yes, sure.
What? Why should Ben Stiller, get all the face time? All right, but this is actually Doug Goodro here at the Dinosaur Institute. How you doing?
Good.
All right, first question. How does it feel to be part of such a monumental undertaking as this dinosaur hall?
Good. It's us finally together, and a few more last-minute touches, but it feels pretty good to have this finally come together.
All right, cool. How long have you been with the Dinosaur Institute?
I've been working full-time at the museum for about 10 years now. The Dinosaur Institute's been formed for about 5 or a little over 5 years or so.
Lucky guy. Let's see, what else? What's another good question? Oh yeah, the big brain teaser I've been asking everyone. What is your favorite specimen?
Well, probably Thomas, because I had a big hand in being out there for every season of that, TRex. And just the whole experience of having, we had several different international crews join us in helping us with that, and then the local folks were really fun to work with and welcoming to have us there as out-of-towners just from Los Angeles. So there's a lot of unintended experiences that went along with that to make the overall process very helpful and a lot of fun. So that one in particular was a lot of fun. But it's a good time in Utah right now. We're working on Natalie, this big sauropod. Part of it's downstairs and in the fossil wall. That's really interesting specimen as well. That's still ongoing.
The big vertebra downstairs?
Oh, the Argentinosaurus. Yeah, it's just for a comparative specimen. That's all a cast, but I had a big hand in helping restore the centrum on that. And work with some of the Argentine crew that actually dug that one up. So that's a good, gives you a good perspective of the diversity and size of dinosaurs that were around.
All right, cool. Anything else to add?
No, it's just a great job.
Alrighty then. Alrighty then, folks. Theodore Roosevelt will be taking on Lawrence of Arabia in the 3rd season of Deadliest Warrior, coming in July 20th.
That's right.
I'm kidding. Thank you very much, Doug.
Sure. Thank you.
Yeah, Doug was a lot of fun. He's very accepting of my cheap humor pertaining to his resemblance to Theodore Roosevelt. But anyway, my favorite part of the exhibit was this little alcove upstairs that talked about the Age of Dinosaurs in California. Because during most of the Age of Dinosaurs, California was a shallow sea where marine reptiles and invertebrates lived, and obviously dinosaurs didn't live in the ocean. And we have found a few dinosaurs in California, obviously bodies that had washed out to sea. And because undoubtedly they lived here in California, but the problem is we just don't find their fossils because of the aforementioned sea. But also, that sea was lapping right up against the foot of mountains, the rising Sierra Nevada. And mountains are they're not very good places to find fossils in because everything is being washed downhill. Basically, the bones would be washed into a stream, get washed down the mountain, it'd get tumbled around, broken up, it just would not survive. And so basically, yeah, our best fossils come from those few lucky dinosaurs who got washed out to sea and preserved. Like the Ankylosaur from San Diego, and the few dinosaur fossils that have been found in, of all places, Fresno County. Fresno County is home to the Panoche Hills, which harbor what is called the Merino Formation, which is about like 75 to 66 million years old. It preserves mainly marine reptiles, and and some of their most spectacular specimens are from the Fresno Hills, like the Merinosaurus, which in the old hall was just mounted in standard Plesiosaur form. Just kind of sitting there with its neck out, classic Loch Ness Monster shape. But in this new hall, they, dramatically remounted it, and it looks awesome, like it's, swimming through the ocean, its snake-like head, winding back and forth to cut through the water, or maybe chasing a fish. And then they have this mosasaur called Plesiosaurus, again from the Merino Formation, and that just looks like any sea dragon you can imagine, or if there was ever a real sea dragon, it would be a mosasaur, which is what Plesiosaurus is. These sea-going lizards called mosasaurs, which are the dominant marine predators of the late Cretaceous. and they came in a wide variety of sizes. Plesiosaurus is about 20 feet long, but they have a skull of an animal called Plesiosaurus, which was a monster among mosasaurs, may in fact be one of the biggest. Huge animal, they estimated to be at least 40 feet long. Hate to run into that thing. And they had, some marine invertebrates, and they had like a little jaw of a duckbill from somewhere in California. And then they had the skull and part of the tail of what is considered to be the most complete dinosaur from California, a hadrosaur called Saurolophus, found in, once again, the Merino Formation of the Panoche Hills. And they actually have, partial skull and most of the skeleton, and I was kind of hoping they'd have something mounted like that. But I don't know what they didn't. I guess they just didn't have the room. They just had, the skull and part of the tail. And then finally they had some tail bones of a hadrosaur from Baja California. Baja California is probably our best bet at looking at what dinosaur life was like during the late Cretaceous in California. The El Gallo Formation specifically has yielded many dinosaur fossils. And the most common is this very large hadrosaur called Lambeosaurus laticatus. And, it was very big, at least 30 feet long. Nice big hefty hadrosaur. But there are bones, especially this big humerus, and I'm a little disappointed they didn't have this humerus on display. But this Lambeosaurus laticatus humerus, the upper arm bone, indicates that the animal who once owned that bone was perhaps 50 feet long and weighing 20 tons, which is, much bigger than T-Rex, or at least much heavier than T-Rex. This huge, huge hadrosaur, and, I was hoping to see more stuff from California in the exhibit, but obviously they got other cool specimens they want to display. It's just, I like what's outside the mainstream, because most big museums, their marine specimens are from Kansas, and not like this museum was any different. They still have a lot of marine specimens from Kansas, but I like seeing stuff from other places, especially like local stuff, which is why in my like little scrapbook here of my favorite dinosaur displays here in California. Obviously the LA Museum is in there. The biggest section from their Age of Mammals Hall is their little fossil history of LA, because that's fossils off the beaten path, and more importantly, there were local fossils, especially the ones from the Sespe Formation, but, again, for another time. Put that away for now. So yeah, they did have some stuff. Obviously the biggest display, but I just wish they could have had more, especially stuff from Baja, like that big humerus. But, their other marine reptile specimens are still pretty cool. Especially this Plesiosaur that they had. There's two groups of Plesiosaurs. You have the Elasmosaurs, who have long necks, and then you have the Plesiosaurs, who have short necks. But it's not just the necks, Elasmosaurs have those like small heads, whereas Plesiosaurs have these big massive heads, and they're a lot bulkier than Elasmosaurs. And what was really cool about this Plesiosaur specimen was that it actually had the fossils of a fetus in it. A little fetal marine reptile. And I think the display said something that, I don't know, did it die in the process of being born, or was it still inside the mother? I can't remember. Again, I didn't get time to really get into the exhibit. But still, it's really cool, and that's again part of showing all these changing ideas in Mesozoic paleontology, is that it was once thought that these animals would crawl onto land like sea turtles and lay eggs. But, there's obviously been specimens like this that indicate that at least some groups of these animals gave birth to live young. And imagine, because they're air breathers, like mammals and birds, their young were likely born tail first to prevent them from drowning. Now onto the crown jewel of the exhibit, at least what the museum is, really proud of in this exhibit, and that is the T-Rex Growth Series. And this is the only one of its kind in the world. Basically, they have bones from all these different ages of T-Rex, and that's really special because it really allows us to look at how these animals changed as they grew up. It's called ontogeny. And originally these specimens were thought to be different animals, like some other species of Tyrannosaurus or Albertosaurus or some other dinosaurs. And then they realized that these were actually the remains of T-Rexes at different stages of its life. And so what they did was they tried to reconstruct those into one display. And what's really cool is that they didn't just do that, what I originally thought would be just that steady progression, like they have them lined up against a wall. You see, here's the baby, here's the teenager, here's the adolescent. Instead, what they did was kill two birds with one stone. Not only show how these animals grew up during life, but also the possible social structure of these animals. There's some circumstantial evidence that suggests T-Rex is a social animal. Like the bite marks on Jane's skull shows that little teenagers fought with each other. But we don't know for sure. There's still a lot of unanswered questions, and so the exhibit is meant to be ambiguous. Is the teenager standing back, hanging back to let the baby go in and eat, or is he trying to chase him off? And so his big brother Thomas comes over to shoo him off. So it's not. So it's meant to be ambiguous. It's meant to show that there are still questions out there and kind of fire the imagination. On to the actual specimens. The first is a little toddler. They estimate him to be 2 years old, and he's known from the front of the snout as well as a few other little skull bones. And so the rest of the skeleton you see there had to be kind of reverse engineered based on our knowledge of other juvenile T-Rex and kind of guesstimating how the bones probably would have looked as it was younger, the skeletal structure. But that's still obviously up in the air until we find a more complete baby. This is the best we got. And then you go up to an adolescent who's about 20 feet long and estimated to be like 4,000 pounds. And that's a big jump from the baby, who's only like 10 feet long, maybe 800 pounds or so. He's like really small, and then all of a sudden you go forward about 11 years and he's put on, like 7,000 pounds. And then you go from the teenager up to Thomas, who's estimated to be 17 years old, and he would have been 30 feet long and 8,000 pounds in life. And he's an adolescent. He still had some growing to do. And all this wonderfully illustrates just how fast T-Rex grew. Just in the span of the 4 years. From being 13 years old to 17 years old, it gained 4,000 pounds. It's estimated that T-Rex, during the prime of its growth spurt, put on 1,500 pounds a year. And that is just incredible, because I'm not sure how dinosaurs did it, because I know blue whales and other whales can grow fast because, they're being nursed on milk that has a fat concentration of around 50%. And then once they're weaned, they're eating krill, which is just full of energy.